Dia Padachaya Sholohe Amai Tomar Dori Chaya Bhega Dhoni Chaya Dosha Shodhi Chaya Guna Deho Dase Chaya Satsanga Deho He Amare Vasashi Sangera Ekaki Amar Nahi Pai Palo Harinama Sankirtane Ekaki Tumi Kripa Kore Shradha Bindu Diya Deho Krishna Nama Dhane Krishna se tomar Krishna dite paro Tomara shakati ache Amito Ganga Krishna Krishna Boli Daitava Pache Pache Amito Ganga Krishna Krishna Boli Daitava Pache Pache Oh hey Vaishnava Thakur Doyara Sagara Idase Guna Kori Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. We'll start with the Mangala Charan from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is on page number 90? 92? Pretty good guess. Bande Guru Nisha Bhaktan Isha Nisha Vatarakan Tat Prakasham Statat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Samjakam Vande Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gododai Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamodudao Yadadvaitam Brahmopanishadi Tadapyasya Tadupa Antaryami Shosham Sabhibhava Shadaishwarya Bhagavan Saswayamayam Chaitanya Krishna Jagati Paratatvam Paramiha Arpita Charim Shira Karunayavatir Nakalau Samarpayitu Munato Jwalarasam Svabhakti Shriyam Hare Purata Sundara Dhyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hriday Kandare Spurutu Vasachinandana Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Hladini Shakti Rasmad Ekatmanav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedham Gatautam Chaitanyakam Prakadamaruna Tadvayam Chaikyamaptam Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisho Vanayaiva Swadyo Yena Bhuta Madhurima Kidrisho Vamaniya Saukyam Chasyad Man Anubhavata Kidrisham Veti Lobhat Tadbhavatya Satjani Sachi Garbha Sindhu Harindu Sankarshana Karana Tova Shayi Garbhoda Shayi Chapayo Vishayi Sheshascha Yasyam Shakala Sanitya Nandakya Ramam Sharanam Namastu Maya Tite Vyapi Vaikuntha Loke Purnaishvarye Shri Chaturvyuha Medye Shri Ruto Sankarshanakyam Tam Shri Nityanandaramam Prapedye Yat Sarta Shete Shakshat Karanam Bodhi Madhye Yasyam Shamsha Shrila Garbhoda Shayi Yam Nabhyab Loka Sangatanalam Loka Shrastu Sutika Dhamadatus Tam Shri Nityananda Pandye Yasyam Sham Shamsha Paratma Kilanam Osha Vishnur Bhati Dugdabdi Shayi Shoni Bharta Yatkala Sokyanantas Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Mahavishnu Jagat Karta Mayaya Yasrajatyada Asyavataram Evayam Advaita Charya Ishvara Advaitam Hanina Dvaitad Acharyam Bhakta Shamshanad Bhaktavataram Isham Tam Advaita Charya Ashraye Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jayatam Sudato Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadam Bojao Radha Madana Mohanao Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadrumata Srimad Ratnakara Singhasanastau Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Deva Reshtali Bisevya Manusmarami Srimad Rasarasarami Vamshi Vatatatatastita Karshan Venu Swanir Gopir Gopinatha Shri Estunaha Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda 18 Thakur Gauriyaki Karyachina Atmasad 18 Era Charan Vandon Tine Moranad Kinyara Rambikoi Jaya Charana Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tine Rasmana Tine Rasmanane Hoy Vignaminashana Acharyasi Hoy Panchita Rana Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left Jagannath Puri, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who had recently been converted to a Vaishnav after having been a very famous scholar Mayavadi, had met the very young sannyasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was 24 years old at the time, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was so venerable and respected all over the world for his scholarship. And when he first encountered the young sannyasi in the hall of Lord Jagannath, at the Lord Jagannath temple, he had been impressed by his beauty, and he attested to see if his faint, that is, Mahaprabhu's lying on the ground in his seeming state of ecstasy, was genuine. Those who were custodians of the temple doubted it. Many times people come and imitate the ecstatic symptoms, and they have to be shooed away with a stick. So they were were the custodians, to take the stick to the beautiful form of the Lord, when by Lord Chaitanya's arrangement, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya happened to be there and told them to stand back. And as he tested the Lord by putting a small bit of cotton fiber in front of his nostrils, he could see that his breath was there but suspended. What's more, Sarvabhauma, although he wasn't a Vaishnav, he was aware of all Vaishnav scriptures as well as all other scriptures of the world. And he had ascertained that this young sannyasi was in a state of deep, deep spiritual ecstasy. So he called upon his students to come and pick up the beautiful body of the Lord and bring it back to his own residence, which we'll visit soon, if everyone can cancel anything else you have going on. We'll be in Jagannath Puri next month. And there he had conversations with Gopinath Acharya, who is well acquainted with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Godhead. And after wanting to do good for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Bhattacharya, not convinced of his godhood, but still very much taken by this beautiful sannyasi, had wanted to upgrade his level of sannyas. He said, "You've taken sannyas in a lower order, so I'll arrange for it. You'll get a second initiation into sannyas, and we'll upgrade that for you." Much to the chagrin of Gopinath Acharya and the other followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, have found that idea abhorrent. What to speak of Nityananda Prabhu, who had even broken Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's danda based on the fact that the varnashram is an external idea. And what does a Paramahamsa, what to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, have to do with carrying around the symbol of the sannyas, or the varnashram, the ashram of sannyas? Nonetheless, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being very submissive and purposeful in his submission, had agreed to sit with the Bhattacharya for some time to hear his explanation of Vedanta. And after 7 days of speaking continuously, which Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was perfectly capable of without stoppage because he was so learned, he noticed increasingly that this young sannyasi was not responding. There were no questions, and there were not even any reflections. And he asked them, "Do you have some response? Do you have some question?" "No," he said. "Do you not understand the meanings that I'm conveying about the Vedanta Sutras?" Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "I perfectly understand the Vedanta Sutras. It's just that your explanation is covering their true meaning, just like a cloud would cover the sun." To which the very well-honored teacher, much advanced in age compared to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was taken aback, as one might imagine. And in that interim, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Bhattacharya, he invited him to give his own explanations. which he did. And he also asked the Bhattacharya to say something about the Atmarama verse, to which the Bhattacharya very expertly, as someone that learned could do, comprised 7 verses about the Atmarama verse, all unique and on the spot. And then he asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to say something, and he then covered 24 different meanings without touching the original meaning that Bhattacharya had given to the Vedanta Sutra, to the Atmarama verse. And increasingly within the mind of the Bhattacharya, because he was an intellectual, and we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached in different ways to different people, appropriately, as is the process recommended by Rupa Goswami, Yena Tena Prakarena Mana Krishna Niveshaya. One way or another devise means that people can come to this consciousness of thinking of Krishna. And so the Bhattacharya, realizing the brilliance of this young man, then began to change his idea about his identity until in his heart he surrendered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and submitted himself, at which time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his form of Sadbhuj, and according to Chaitanya Bhagavat, his other Narayan form. At that time in Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is said by Vrindavan Das Thakur that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, "So now do you still think I'm not qualified for sannyas?" You can laugh. So from that very day, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became a Vaishnava. He had been a Mayavadi. And the next morning, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was returning from Mangalartik, he came to the house of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, detecting that the Lord was just coming into his courtyard in his house, and who had just risen from bed, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu simultaneously could hear him chant Krishna as he awoke. And then he came, did the Bhattacharya, and offers obeisances to the Lord. The Lord had brought Mahaprasadam straight from the Jagannath temple and had given it to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Now in the Smriti Shastras, there are various regulations for smartas who follow these scriptures meticulously, that you're not to touch anything, but to speak of eat something just after rising from bed. Anybody come from a background like that? Nobody has been burdened with that? We have met others who've been through such a rigorous upbringing, and they can very much relate to how stiffly people who adhere to that hold these certain rules and regulations. So it was noticeable when the Bhattacharya then offered obeisances, got up, accepted the Mahaprasad, and immediately took it. And he, of course, knowing all the Shastras, said, Nadesha niyamas tatra, nakala niyamas tatra, tata, praptamanam ducham shrishtar bhoktarim har abravit. The Bhattacharya declared that if Mahaprasadam is brought from a distant country, even if it's stale, dried up, doesn't look appealing, you should honor it immediately as soon as you receive it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then could see that the conversion was complete. He had a soft heart. He could appreciate and honor Mahaprasadam. So it wasn't more than a month after this time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come to Jagannath Puri and achieved the miracle of converting one of the most popular spiritual figures in all of India to his own brand of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And the word spread everywhere, of course, and Bhattacharya had become very much attached to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had announced first to his intimate associates that he would be leaving for South India to do a tour, to find his brother. He said to him, I know my brother has taken sannyas somewhere in South India, and a pretext of ignorance was required because he knew, did Lord Chaitanya, that his brother had already passed. But he used this as an excuse to go out to preach. After telling his intimate associates, he had then gone to, let me just turn that a little bit, sorry. He had gone to the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and told him of his intention to leave Jagannath Puri, at which time Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya greatly lamented and said, I've just now met you after uselessly spending my whole life in dry speculation, and now finally. And of course, Sarvabhauma had shown such spiritual enthusiasm that in reading the Bhagavat, he wanted to change from mukti to bhakti in the verse Tatenu kampam susamikshimanu bunjani vatma kitam vipakam ridvagvapurvir viradam namaste jiveta yo mukti. Because Mayavadis relate to this idea of mukti as being the ultimate goal, then it sounded abhorrent to Sarvabhauma. This also is a sign of his change of heart. He said, I'm going to change it to bhakti. This is too disturbing to have this word here. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu convinced Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that mukti also means the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And besides that, you can't go around changing the Bhagavatam. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, in that very soft-hearted mood, had heard the declaration of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he would be leaving to go preach in South India. Who knows in those days when somebody would come back, how would they come back, how would you stay in touch? It was very difficult. And to know where people were, just word of mouth, basically. And so he begged the Lord that at least stay a few days in my house before you leave. And Mahaprabhu had accommodated him in that. It's noted there that he was so, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, soft-hearted and attached to his devotees that he was controlled by them, by their love. But when Mahaprabhu was ready for his final departure to South India, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had, at the last moment, assailed him and said, one thing I want to mention. When you come to this place where we are now, he said, when you reach this place, there is a great Vaishnava there. I used to criticize him because I thought, who are these sentimentalists? And I didn't understand his brand of spirituality, but now I understand. And he said, please do not neglect him. Come to see Ramananda Roy. Don't neglect him because he's a governor. He's considered a Shudra. You should know that he's fit, said Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to associate with you. So, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Ramananda Roy is fit to associate with you. And Mahaprabhu, when he came to this place, this Ghat, he sat and first took his bath and sat down in prayerful way. And there was some pageantry indicated by music playing, then a retinue of people dressed in royal dress and carrying a personality on a palanquin. And that personality was Srila Ramananda Roy, who was the governor of this region. And he was surrounded by soldiers and by other politicians and definitely panegyrists. That was a position at the time that you could take up, as you could have a major in that. MIT even had it. So when he came and was descending to the river to take his bath, as per the regulations of the Shastra, exactly how to enter a holy place, how to take a bath, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu observed him, and in his heart, he was wishing to meet with Ramananda Roy. It was spontaneous. After Ramananda had taken his bath and he saw that the sannyasi was there, he came to meet him. And there was a spontaneous attraction because in Krishna Lila, Ramananda Roy is Vishaka Devi, who's the most intimate associate of Srimati Radharani. And of course, in the esoterics of understanding Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we find that Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Haladini Shakti Rasma Ekat Manam Api Bhuvi Pura Deha